Yeah, y'all know what it is, man. We about to get into some more of this mental slavery stuff. As you can see, you know what I'm saying, down below. Mental slavery about Hampton Institute. So let's go ahead and get into it with the screen sharing, man. Just do it. Let's get into this. Start from the top, man. This is coming from Hampton University themselves, as it appears. It appears to be their website, Hampton Education. All right. So, with that being said, my bad. Make this a little bit bigger so y'all can see along with me. You know, make sure we all on the same page. What they say all together now. Yeah, I'm trying to line it. All right, there we go. Now we should be ready to do this. But like y'all already saw the title or whatever, y'all already know what it is. Y'all already know what I'm talking about. Talking about the Hampton Institute for the ones that might see this one and don't see the other information I was speaking on dealing with this. But yeah, it's the Hampton Institute and how the school system in itself is based on the prison system, and it's all about controlling the mind and making you deny who you actually are, causing you to conform to what they would call American culture. And so this happened for years upon years upon years, where that the goal was for a person to totally forget who they are and become indoctrinated with something else, and with this something else be rewarded according to American standards, and they go back and teach what they learned to their fellow kind. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. But yeah, y'all get what I'm saying already. But let me just go ahead and get into the reading though. So we're talking about under the tree again, right? First of all, there's all water around. Y'all see that? Okay. It say under a simple oak tree. The year was 1861. The American Civil War had shortly begun, and the Union Army held control of Fort Monroe in Hampton, Virginia, at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. You know, they always talk about Chesapeake Bay. In May of that year, Union Major General Benjamin Butler decreed that any escaping slaves reaching Union lines would be considered contraband of war and would not be returned to bondage. This resulted in waves of enslaved people rushing to the fort in search of freedom. A camp to the house, it's a camp to house the newly freed slaves was built several miles outside the protective walls of Fort Monroe. It was named the Grand Country Band Camp and functioned as the United States' first self-contained African American community. In order to provide the masses of refugees some kind of education, Mary Peak, a free Negro, was asked to teach, even though an 1831 Virginia law forbid, right, that's the Nat Turner deal, the education of slaves, free blacks, and mulattoes. She held her first class, which consisted of about 20 students, on September 17, 1861, under a simple oak tree. This tree would later be known as the Emancipation Oak and would become the site of the first Southern reading of the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. Today, the Emancipation Oak still stands on the Hampton University campus as a lasting symbol of the promise of education for all, even in the face of adversity. Now, for real, man, y'all know they say that back in the days, so-called Negroes was not allowed to read and write and all this type of stuff. But here you see this wasn't enacted until after the Nat Turner rebellion type thing. So Turner knew how to read, and everyone else did as well, basically. Before 1831, people still knew how to read, but that's when they enacted it where it was a law to where you can't be taught to read. Let me just put it that way. But yes, some funny bit going on. And then on top of the fact that this 1831, right, and then this is a free Negro. Okay, she free, and she run around during this time. And when they paint the picture of Nat Turner and all that, they make it seem as if everybody was just slaves and that, man, let me just keep it. All right, okay, cool. All right, it said the Hampton Normal School. In 1863, using government funds to continue the work started by Mary Peake. General Butler founded the Butler School for Negro children, where students were taught reading, writing, arithmetic, geography, and grammar, as well as various housekeeping skills. Brigadier General Samuel Armstrong was appointed in 1866 to superintendent of the Freedmen's Bureau of Ninth District of Virginia, of the Ninth District of Virginia. Now listen, the Samuel Armstrong dudes one that had a lot to do with developing Hampton, which y'all already know about that by now. And y'all see he was a part of the Freedmen's Bureau, and the Freedmen's Bureau was supposed to be for the refugees and all that for after the war, which consisted of black people as well, which we already know about the Freedmen's Bank and all that. Okay, y'all connecting this? All right. It's a drawing upon his experiences with mission schools in Hawaii. He procured funding from the American Missionary Association to establish a school on the Wood Farm, also known as Little Scotland, adjacent to the Butler School. On April 1st, 1868, Armstrong opened Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute with a simple declared purpose, right? With a simple declared purpose. Understand the terminology, y'all. Okay. It said the thing to be done was clear: to train selected Negro youth who should go out and teach and lead their people, first by example, by getting land and homes, to give them not a dollar that they could earn for themselves. Hold on, let me read this here again. It said the thing to be done was clear: to train selected Negro youth who could go out and teach and lead their people first by example, by getting land and homes, to give them not a dollar that they can earn for themselves, right? It say to give them not a dollar that they can earn for themselves, okay? Right, okay, no give you no handouts. Like you can do it for yourself, you can go, okay, my bad. I was reading that kind of funny. All right, it say to teach respect for labor, to replace stupid drudgery with skilled hands, and in this way, to build up an industrial system for the sake not only of self-support and intelligent labor, but also for the sake of character. All right, so they call themselves trying to teach us how to self-sustain ourselves and stuff like that, and teaching us the skills to do it, so to speak, and to say that perhaps that's true or whatnot. Or it's probably the other way around for the people who did it. I ain't finna go there. But yeah, y'all see what's going on, And then I guess in 1831, people weren't supposed to be doing it anyway. So this sounds some behind the scenes type thing that's going on up here in Hampton, in the well-to-do places with the elite, where they getting information and education that no one else can get and receive, that no one else is supposed to be getting and receiving because of the Nat Turner situation after 1931, right? Y'all follow what's going on? So the elite is basically talking about the Boule and all them. Okay, let me keep going. Let y'all make all your own rationalities. rationales. All right, so the thing to be done was clear. Okay, train Negroes, people, example, the homes, okay, to themselves, respect them for labor, okay, second cat, I read all that already. Okay, now let's get to the practical experience in trades. Practical experience in trades and industrial skills were emphasized, and students were able to pay their way through school by working in various jobs throughout the burgeoning campus. I think that's how you say that. It's a the Butler School, which was succeeded in 1889 by the Whittier School, the Whittier School, was used as a practice ground for teaching students of the Hampton Normal School. Hmm. Okay. It's a new student. By 1872, Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute was flourishing and drawing students from all over the country. One day that year, a young man met with the assistant principal to request admission. His clothes and person was so unkempt from his long journey, he had nearly turned away. The assistant principal asked him to sweep the recitation room. Right, it said the young man, excited at the prospect of work, not only swept the floor 3 times, but thoroughly dusted the room 4 times, thereby passing a rigorous white glove inspection. Upon seeing the results of his work, the assistant principal said quietly, I guess you will do to enter this institution. Hey, that's something. Hmm. It's the first thing. Man say, hey, man, they say the man looking crazy, looking like he ain't got nothing and stuff like that. And the first thing you have to do is clean something up. It say the newly accepted students was Booker T. Washington, who would become Hampton's most distinguished graduate. At only 25 years old, at the request of General Armstrong, Washington helped found Tuskegee Institute in Alabama in 1881. Okay, remember they did Tuskegee Institute and all that type of stuff. They used Booker T. Washington to do it. They say he the one that founded the school and all that there, and he was one of the most distinguished graduates. You know, and Armstrong himself handpicked him, and this man that started all this here as far as like call themselves conforming the black man into society. Which we know with the District of Columbia and all that type of stuff with the American Goddess Columbia. Okay, man. All right. Let's keep going with the what they call that, the eugenics movement and all that other kind of stuff going on. Everything, a whole lot of stuff going on during this time. As a matter of the fact, you had the African Zeus. Okay, Native Americans arrived. It say during the night of April 1878, a group of Native Americans arrived in Hampton from Fort Sill, where they had been imprisoned at the close of the Red River War. No longer considered dangerous, they were sent to Hampton at the request of General Armstrong. These 70 men and women became the first American Indian students at Hampton and began a Native American education program that spanned more than 40 years, with the last student graduating in 1923. Okay, so right now they're trying to say this is when the Native American came, and they're trying to make it definitely seem distinguished from what we would call Negroes, but at the same time, it's called the Hampton Indian Institute. You see what I'm saying? It don't make sense. So how the main name is the Indian Institute if the the people that were there is basically Negroes or what they would call African and color and all that. And then, okay, but anyway, it's just a little offbeat for me. Then they talk about these people that war and all that type of stuff, and they so-called they're tame now out of a sudden, and now they can go attend the school. Come on, man. Sound right. Okay, it said Red River no longer considered dangerous. They said Hampton requested General Armstrong settlement, and the students Hampton began carrying spanning 40 years. which last students graduated in 1923. All right, so it stopped the night. All this basically stopped in 1923. Okay, say the trade school era. Throughout the 1880s and 1890s, Hampton Normal School saw a dramatic increase in enrollment in educational offerings, which created a need not only for additional dormitory space, but also for auxiliary factory facilities. A number of buildings were constructed during this 20-year span, including Whipple Barn, Wigwam, the American Indian Boys Dormitory, Holy Tree Inn, and the Armstrong Science Trade School. Most most all of them built by Hampton students. So the students built all these facilities. Okay, they say the new trade school would offer instruction in forming, carpentry, harness making, printing, tailoring, clocksmithing, blacksmithing, painting, and wheelwrighting. By 1904, nearly three-fourths of all boys at Hampton were taking trades classes. In addition to expansion of the agricultural program in 1913, Hampton's music program flourished under the direction of Dr. R. Nathaniel Dett, who brought the Hampton Choir and Quartet to the world through highly acclaimed performances in London, Vienna, Zurich, Berlin, Geneva, and Paris. It's a Hampton Institute, the college, enhancing Hampton's curriculum to meet the stringent requirements of college level accreditation were the focus during the late 1900s and throughout the 1920s. Many new programs were added, and the requirements for existing courses were raised to meet the new standard Hampton placed upon itself. A library science school and established it said a library science school was established in 1924, and an extension program was begun in 1929 to reach students who were unable to come to campus. The Robert C. Jean Auditorium was built in 1918, and with 2,000 seats, it was at the time the largest auditorium in the area. Today, Arlington Hall is considered one of the finest acoustical venues in the nation. In the principal report of 1929, Hampton President Dr. James Edward Craig stated that Hampton Institute is now a college. He went on to state that every one of its collegiate divisions or schools, agriculture, home economics, education, business building, libraryship, music is fitting its students for their life work as teachers or as practitioners in their chosen calling. On July 1st, 1930, Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute became Hampton Institute, and the title of principal, Dr. George Phoenix, at the time was changed to president. The Great Depression. The 1930s brought with it the Great Depression and intense challenges for Hampton Institute, already confronted with an overwhelming budget deficit. The college experienced a decrease in enrollment and budget. Cuts and staff dismissal were common. To cut costs, the library school was discontinued in 1940, and the nursing was taken over by a local hospital the same year. When America became involved in World War II, financial relief could soon arrive to Hampton Institute as the federal government established war training facilities on the campus. After the war, many of the military training buildings were purchased by the college and are still in use today. In addition to Hampton's financial troubles, many felt that the school's decades-old educational philosophies no longer applied to a changing racial climate, where the emerging youth began to question accepted policies and procedures. Students wanted more self-governance and change in many of the regulations. While the Hampton staff was interracial, there were no Negroes employed as heads of departments in schools. Thus, in 1940, a few high-ranking administrative positions, including Dean of Instruction and Dean of Women, were appointed to Negroes. And in 1949, Dr. Alonzo G. Moran became the first Negro president of Hampton Institute. And that's shit. A new wave of growth. During the 1950s, the programs in the agriculture and trades were phased out due to decreased enrollment and change in the American workforce climate. However, a number of new programs were initiated, including graduate studies in mathematics, chemistry, and physics. During the tenure of Hampton Institute's ninth president, Dr. Jerome H. Holland, the college experienced a decade of growth in every facet of the program. 12 new buildings were constructed. Faculty numbers increased. Average salaries doubled, and student enrollment reached 2,600 by 1969. New programs and departments were established, including a computer technology program, the College of Cooperative Education, and a Department of Mass Media Arts. Accompanying Hampton's steady growth in the 1960s was the conventional landscape of the civil rights movement and the changing attitudes of Negroes, who were finally able to see the promise of first-class citizenship and equal education and economic opportunity in the democratic society. Noted in democratic society. Noted civil rights leaders, including Dr. Martin Luther King, visited the Hampton campus in 1957, 2 years after being arrested for refusing to give up the seat to a white bus passenger. Rosa Parks moved to the Hampton area where she worked on the campus as a hostess at the Holy Tree Inn. Ain't that something? On February 11, 1960, a group of Hampton Institute students were the first in Virginia to stage a lunch counter sit-in to protest local businesses refusing to serve blacks and whites equally. Ain't this something? So all this is like, man, stop it. So all the propaganda is leading right from this school. These people in the school that's trying to so-called fight for black equality, but we already had the equality, already owned the land, and tricked us into thinking that we had to fight for something that we already possessed. The records in here, well, okay, I don't know. I could be wrong. All right, let's see. I got to call my mom in a minute. This last part of it. Right, it said, continuing the tradition. It said the social unrest of the 1960s spilled over into the 1970s as students demanded a wider variety of courses. It's a co-ed living on campus and a stronger voice in the administrative council and the board of trustees. In the face of student protests, bomb threats, and dormitory fires, Hampton President Dr. Roy Hudson managed to improve relations with students, including the college engineering program, through partnerships with other universities. Dr. William R. Harvey was unanimously elected the 12th president of Hampton Institute in 1978. Okay, we talking about 1978 and shit. Okay, we already got to the main point, man. What's happening? So y'all already see what I'm talking about and how this thing pretty much got started. Yeah, that's what we're going with. It still started back from that old tree. You know what I'm talking about? And so yeah, I think I got the drift. You know, because I'm still overlapping these. Still overlapping them. You know what I mean? So yeah. Until next time, I'll get with y'all once again. Thank y'all. Peace.